Hockey has been around for over a century, but the NHL we know today didn't just appear overnight. It went through dramatic changes, legendary rivalries, and moments that completely reshaped the sport. From its earliest days as a small league trying to survive to the powerhouse it is today, every era has left its mark on history. The way the game is played, the biggest stars, and even the rules have all evolved over time, sometimes in ways nobody expected. But how did we get here? And what moments truly changed everything? This is the complete story of every NHL era, explained step by step. If you love hockey and the stories behind its greatest moments, then make sure to like and subscribe. Every era shaped the NHL into what it is today, and we're breaking it all down. Stick with us as we dive deeper into the rivalries, dynasties, and legendary players who changed the game forever. Before the NHL existed, hockey was a wild and unpredictable sport played in frozen ponds, small local leagues, and even makeshift indoor rinks. There were no official rules, no structured competitions, just players battling for pride and bragging rights. But as the game grew, people started realizing it needed organization, and in 1917, the National Hockey League was born. Back then, the league was nothing like it is today. It started with only 4 teams: the Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Wanderers, Ottawa Senators, and Toronto Arenas. The idea behind the NHL's creation was simple. Previous leagues had struggled with stability, team disputes, and financial problems. The founders wanted a fresh start, free from the chaos that had plagued earlier attempts to build a professional hockey league. The first official NHL game took place on December 19, 1917. The Montreal Wanderers faced the Toronto Arenas, and the Wanderers won 10-9 in a high-scoring battle. While the game lacked the structure of today's hockey, it set the stage for what was to come. One of the league's first true stars quickly emerged. Joe Malone, a goal-scoring machine, dominated the league's early years, netting an incredible 44 goals in the NHL's debut season. His offensive talent showed just how exciting the sport could be when played at a high level. However, the league faced major challenges in its first season. The Montreal Wanderers arena burned down, forcing the team to shut down completely, leaving only 3 teams. Financial instability also threatened the league's survival, but determined leaders pushed forward, refusing to let the NHL fade away. In the following years, the league expanded, new stars arrived, and important rule changes shaped the future of hockey. The introduction of blue lines brought structure to the game, defining offside rules and changing how teams approached offense. The concept of a forward pass revolutionized strategy, allowing for more creative plays instead of simply dumping the puck forward. By the early 1920s, the NHL had survived its rocky start and was beginning to build the foundation of what would become one of the greatest sports leagues in the world. This era wasn't just about creating a league, it was about proving that professional hockey could work. The challenges, the stars, the first great moments, they all set the stage for what came next. Without this foundation, everything that followed wouldn't have been possible. The previous era of hockey had been defined by dominant teams and legendary stars, but by the late 1930s, change was coming fast. The Ottawa Senators, who once ruled the NHL, won their final championship in 1927 before fading into obscurity. Their dynasty was over, and hockey was entering a new phase, one where no single team controlled everything. Then, in 1938, the NHL shifted forever with the arrival of Frank Brimsek. Dubbed Mr. Zero for his incredible goaltending skills, Brimsek joined the Boston Bruins and immediately changed the game. In his first season, he won the Calder Trophy as the league's top rookie and led Boston to a Stanley Cup victory. His style, reflexes, and ability to steal games brought goaltending to a new level, forcing teams to rethink how they approached offense. As the league evolved, new stars emerged. Gordie Drillin won the scoring title in 1938, proving that controlled, strategic play could be just as effective as raw speed. Meanwhile, Chicago's Toe Blake started building his reputation as one of the smartest players in the game, showing that hockey was becoming more than just brute force. It was a battle of intelligence. The Stanley Cup changed hands frequently in this era, signaling how competitive the league was becoming. Boston won it in 1939, the New York Rangers took it in 1940, and the Toronto Maple Leafs dominated the mid and late 1940s with a series of championships. No single team held on to control for too long, keeping fans on edge every season. Rule changes also shaped the game. The introduction of the red line in 1943 helped speed up play and encouraged more passing, making hockey faster and more dynamic. Meanwhile, substitutions became smoother, allowing teams to manage fatigue better during games. Through all of this, one player remained a constant force: Syl Apps. His leadership and scoring ability kept Toronto competitive year after year, helping the team win multiple Stanley Cups. Apps wasn't just a great scorer, he was one of the first true all-around players excelling in every aspect of the game. By the late 1940s, the NHL had transformed, and the league was bigger, the strategies were smarter, harder, and the competition was tougher than ever. Hockey was no longer a game dominated by a single dynasty. It was a sport where any team could rise to the top. The days of complete dominance were gone, and a new era of fierce rivalries was just getting started. The 1940s and 1950s saw the rise of the NHL's first true powerhouse, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Led by legendary players like Sil Apps, Teeter Kennedy, and Turk Broda, Toronto captured multiple Stanley Cups, cementing their status as the team to beat. They played tough, disciplined hockey, dominating opponents with a combination of skill and smart coaching. But something bigger was happening. During this same era, a heated rivalry between the Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens was taking shape, one that would define hockey for decades. Toronto and Montreal weren't just fighting for championships, they were fighting for pride, legacy, and the title of hockey's greatest franchise. It wasn't just about the games, it was about two cities, two styles of play, and two fan bases clashing every single season. As the years passed, the battles between these teams became legendary. The Canadiens, led by Maurice "Rocket" Richard, Jean Béliveau, and Doug Harvey, quickly became Toronto's biggest threat. Richard, one of the most electrifying scorers of his generation, played with passion and fire, thrilling fans with his intensity and goal-scoring ability. Meanwhile, Béliveau's leadership and Harvey's defensive brilliance gave Montreal an edge that would eventually challenge Toronto's dominance. Throughout the 1940s, Toronto held on to control, winning championships in 1942, 1945, 1947, 1948, and 1949. But in the early 1950s, Montreal started pushing back. In 1953, the Canadiens won the Stanley Cup, signaling a shift in power. This wasn't just a one-time victory, it was the beginning of something new. By the mid-1950s, the rivalry reached its peak when Montreal completely took over the league. The Canadiens went on an unprecedented run, winning 5 straight Stanley Cups from 1956 to 1960, a feat no team had ever accomplished before. Richard, Béliveau, and Harvey dominated, while Jacques Plante revolutionized goaltending with the introduction of the goalie mask in 1959. Hockey wasn't just evolving, it was being transformed by this team. But as Montreal celebrated their success, new stars were emerging, ready to define the next era. Bobby Hull, Gordie Howe, and Stan Mikita were rising fast, bringing speed, power, and skill that would shape the future of the NHL. The days of the original 6 teams controlling everything were coming to an end, and hockey was about to explode into something much bigger. This era had everything: Rocket Richard's relentless scoring, Béliveau's leadership, Harvey's defensive genius, and Plante's innovations. The Stanley Cup bounced between Toronto and Montreal for years, giving fans some of the greatest hockey moments ever. The NHL had grown into a true spectacle, with stars in every city and rivalries that made every game must-watch. The Maple Leafs Canadiens battles didn't just entertain fans, they helped build the modern NHL. The 1960s and 1970s marked an era where individual dominance and team dynasties shaped the NHL like never before. One team that finally broke through was the Chicago Blackhawks. After years of near misses, they captured the Stanley Cup in 1961, led by the incredible Bobby Hull. Hull wasn't just fast, he was explosive. His slap shot was one of the hardest in hockey history, and defenders had no way of stopping him. Alongside Stan Mikita, who brought intelligence and creativity to Chicago's offense, the Blackhawks had the perfect combination of speed, power, and precision. But while Chicago had their moment, the team that truly owned this era was the Montreal Canadiens. They built their dominance on balance. Jean Béliveau was their leader, Yvan Cournoyer brought speed, and Ken Dryden was a brick wall in net. They played a smooth, controlled style that frustrated opponents, winning cup after cup with calculated execution. Teams tried to adapt, but Montreal always seemed to have the upper hand. During these years, challengers fought desperately to take them down. The Boston Bruins, led by Bobby Orr, became a serious threat. Orr wasn't just great, he completely changed how defensemen played the game. His ability to rush the puck, create plays, and score goals from the blue line made him unlike any player before him. Boston improved rapidly, but whenever they faced Montreal in the playoffs, the Canadiens found ways to shut them down. Season after season, records were shattered. Bill Esposito dominated the scoring charts with his goal-scoring ability, while Dryden and Tony Esposito established themselves as elite goaltenders. Meanwhile, teams adjusted their strategies. Montreal mastered puck control, Boston relied on aggressive offensive play, and Chicago focused on speed. Hockey wasn't just physical anymore, it was becoming more strategic, and every team had their own way of attacking. Through the late 1960s and into the 1970s, the Canadiens remained at the top, winning 6 Stanley Cups in 10 years. Jean Béliveau became one of the most respected figures in the sport, while Bobby Orr's impact ensured that defense would never be played the same way again. This era wasn't just about winning, it was about reshaping the way hockey was played, with teams relying on structured systems and superstars pushing the limits of individual individual greatness. In 1979, Wayne Gretzky entered the NHL and immediately redefined what was possible on the ice. After the WHA merger brought the Edmonton Oilers into the league, a skinny 18-year-old from Brantford changed hockey forever. Gretzky wasn't physically imposing, just 6 feet and 170 pounds, but his vision and creativity made him unstoppable. In his first NHL season, he tied for the scoring lead with 137 points and took home the Hart Trophy as MVP. But that was just the beginning. By 1982, Gretzky shattered records with 92 goals and 212 points in a single season, numbers that still seem impossible today. The Oilers built around him with incredible talent. Mark Messier, Jari Kurri, Paul Coffey, and Grant Fuhr formed a dynasty that played the game at a different speed. Edmonton won their first Stanley Cup in 1984, ending the New York Islanders' 4-year run. Gretzky was otherworldly, putting up 205 points and controlling every game he played. They followed with championships in 1985, 1987, and 1988, cementing themselves as one of hockey's greatest teams. Then came the trade that shocked the sports world. In 1988, Edmonton sent Gretzky to Los Angeles in a deal that changed the NHL landscape. Southern California suddenly cared about hockey, and the Great One brought the game to new markets and television audiences. The Kings instantly became relevant, reaching the Stanley Cup Finals in 1993 behind Gretzky's brilliant playmaking. He continued rewriting the record books, eventually pushing his career points total to 2,857, nearly 1,000 more than anyone else. While Gretzky dazzled with finesse, Mario Lemieux brought a unique blend of skill and power when he joined Pittsburgh in 1984. At 6 feet 4 inches, Lemieux could dominate physically, but played with the hands of a surgeon. He scored on his first NHL shot and never looked back. By 1988, he won his first scoring title with 168 points, and finally gave Gretzky real competition for world's best player. Mario's signature moment came in the 1991 and 1992 Stanley Cup Finals, leading the Penguins to back-to-back championships despite battling serious health issues. The 1990s brought new challenges for both superstars. Lemieux missed the entire 1994-95 season battling Hodgkin's lymphoma before returning to win the scoring title the very next year, perhaps the most incredible comeback in sports history. Gretzky moved on to St. Louis briefly before finishing his career with the Rangers, still playing at an elite level but without the dominance of his Edmonton days. This era also saw Europe's influence grow substantially. Players like Jaromir Jagr, Timo Selänne, and Dominik Hasek brought their talents to North America and changed stylistic approaches across the league. The NHL expanded into non-traditional markets, adding teams in San Jose, Tampa Bay, Anaheim, and Florida. Television coverage improved, and hockey's popularity surged in the United States. By the late 1990s, the game was evolving again. The neutral zone trap slowed the free-flowing style that Gretzky had thrived in. Teams focused more on defense and physical play, with the New Jersey Devils winning championships by shutting down opponents. Scoring declined, and the league searched for ways to increase offense. But through all the changes, Gretzky and Lemieux remained the gold standard, two transcendent talents who pushed each other and elevated the entire sport. Their rivalries weren't just about competition. They were about artistic expression on ice and redefining what was possible in hockey. When Gretzky retired in 1999, he held 61 NHL records, a testament to his unmatched impact on the game. As the decade came to an end, a new wave of stars was ready to take over. Guy Lafleur, Brian Trottier, and Mike Bossy were rising fast, setting the stage for the next phase of dominance. But before they could take control, they had to go through the teams and legends that had built the modern game. The standard was set, the next generation had big shoes to fill. Hockey changed forever in the early 2000s when salary caps forced teams to rethink how they built their rosters. No longer could teams simply buy championships by stacking their lineups with expensive veterans. Instead, franchises had to get smarter, balancing superstar contracts with rising young talent while working within strict financial limits. This era created the blueprint for modern hockey, where teams had to plan for both short-term success and long-term stability. One of the biggest shifts came in 2005 when Sidney Crosby joined the Pittsburgh Penguins, Suddenly, Pittsburgh was the team everyone talked about. Crosby wasn't just a great player, he was hyped as the next face of the NHL, expected to lead his team to multiple Stanley Cups. Fans either loved him or hated him, but no one could ignore him. His rivalry with Alexander Ovechkin, who had joined the Washington Capitals that same year, sparked one of the most exciting head-to-head battles in hockey history. Everyone expected Pittsburgh to dominate immediately, but it wasn't that simple. In his first few seasons, Crosby put up incredible numbers, proving he could be the league's best player. But the Penguins struggled in the playoffs, showing that a superstar alone wasn't enough to win a championship. Critics questioned whether Crosby could lead a team to glory, or if his talent would be wasted without the right support around him. Meanwhile, Detroit reminded the league that strategy mattered just as much as skill. The Red Wings won the 2008 Stanley Cup with their disciplined, well-balanced approach, shutting down Crosby's Penguins in the finals. It was a lesson in patience. Building a championship team required more than just raw talent, but the next year, Pittsburgh came back stronger, adjusting their style and winning the 2009 Stanley Cup, proving Crosby could lead a team to victory when given the right pieces. During these years, the NHL saw the rise of dominant super teams that mixed veteran leadership with young stars. Chicago built a dynasty, winning Stanley Cups in 2010, 2013, and 2015. Meanwhile, Los Angeles used their defense-first approach to capture titles in 2012 and 2014. Teams were no longer relying on just one superstar. They were balancing rosters in ways that fit the modern salary cap era, but not every attempt at creating a super team worked. In the early 2000s, 10s, many franchises spent big money on free agents, hoping to manufacture success overnight. Some teams failed spectacularly, missing the playoffs despite expensive rosters, proving that chemistry mattered just as much as skill. Critics debated whether teams were relying too much on analytics instead of trusting traditional hockey instincts. Through it all, the game evolved. Hockey became faster, skill-focused, and driven by tactical strategies. Teams learned how to build contenders under the salary cap, changing the way franchises approached free agency and player contracts. Social media made stars bigger than ever, creating hype around every trade, signing, and rivalry. Whether fans loved this new era or missed the old days, one thing was clear. Modern hockey had been reshaped. The NHL wasn't just about talent anymore. It was about smart decisions, financial strategy, and adapting to a constantly changing game. And in just a few seasons, this approach created a legacy of winning, controversy, and a blueprint that teams still follow today. From 2008 to 2017, the NHL experienced one of its most electrifying eras, defined by fierce rivalries, unforgettable moments, and superstars who shaped the game's future. For nearly a decade, the battle between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals captivated hockey fans, featuring intense playoff matchups and head-to-head duels that became must-watch television. On one side was Sidney Crosby, the most dominant player of his generation. Crosby wasn't just a goal scorer, he was a complete player, leading Pittsburgh with skill, vision, and a relentless drive to win. On the other side was Alexander Ovechkin, the Capitals' powerhouse winger, who redefined goal scoring with his deadly shot and fearless playing style. Their rivalry wasn't just about personal competition, it represented two different approaches to hockey. Crosby played a disciplined, all-around game, while Ovechkin was the explosive, unpredictable scorer who could change a game in an instant. Each season, the stakes got higher. In the 2009 playoffs, Crosby and Ovechkin delivered an unforgettable showdown in the Eastern Conference semifinals, both scoring hat tricks in the same game. Pittsburgh ultimately won the series and later the Stanley Cup, solidifying Crosby as the league's biggest star. Washington continued to dominate regular seasons, but playoff success eluded them. Critics questioned whether Ovechkin's high-powered offense could ever translate into championships. By the mid-2000s teens, the rivalry had evolved. Pittsburgh won back-to-back cups in 2016 and 2017, using a fast, aggressive system built around Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and a new wave of talented players. Meanwhile, Washington kept pushing forward, refining their defensive strategies and relying on Ovechkin's leadership to stay competitive. Then, in 2018, everything changed. Washington finally broke through, defeating Pittsburgh in the playoffs before going on to win their first Stanley Cup. Ovechkin silenced his doubters, proving that he could lead his team to the ultimate prize. The celebration was legendary. Ovechkin lifted the cup with pure emotion, cementing his legacy. Beyond these two teams, the era influenced hockey in massive ways. Fast-paced, aggressive play became the new standard, replacing the slower, defensive systems of previous decades. Teams built around speed, skill, and scoring depth, leading to high-scoring, entertaining games. Analytics became a bigger part of coaching strategies, and social media gave fans direct access to their favorite players. This era has been unpredictable. From 2018 to now, we haven't seen any team win back-to-back Stanley Cups. That's 6 different champions in 6 straight years, proving just how competitive modern hockey has become. Gone are the days when one dynasty ruled the league. Now, any team can rise to the top if they hit their stride at the right time. Now, here we are in 2025, and the season is still unfolding. The Colorado Avalanche have dominated offensively, showcasing their lethal combination of speed and puck movement. Meanwhile, the Florida Panthers continue to prove they're built for deep playoff runs, grinding out wins with smart defensive play. And of course, Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers remain dangerous. His ability to create scoring chances out of nothing keeps defenses on their heels every night. What makes this era different is the sheer parity. We don't have one dynasty controlling the league like in past decades when teams like the Canadiens, Islanders, or Blackhawks ruled for years. Instead, depth and adaptability are more important than ever. Teams are focusing on speed, skill, and creative offensive systems rather than relying solely on physical play. One of the biggest stars of this era, Connor McDavid, continues to amaze. His vision, skating, and ability to make plays at top speed set him apart from every player before him. He's already won multiple MVPs, but his quest for a Stanley Cup is still ongoing. Meanwhile, players like Austin Matthews, Cale Makar, and Leon Draisaitl are redefining what elite skill looks like in today's game. Even now, as we head toward the trade deadline and playoffs, no team looks unbeatable. The race for the cup is wide open, and anything can happen. Will we see a rising team shock the league? Or will one of the seasoned contenders prove they've mastered this unpredictable era? In today's NHL, the only certainty is that nothing is guaranteed. If you've enjoyed this journey through hockey's greatest eras, make sure to like and subscribe. Every game, every rivalry, every legendary moment deserves to be remembered. Your support helps keep these stories alive, and there's so much more to explore. Stay with us, because hockey history is still being written.